Welcome to the impact of trauma on victims of domestic violence. Let's start by watching a brief video of an on-scene response to Miss Martin, who has called the police to report abuse from her husband. Maria's husband has been abusive towards her for 5 years. The abuse has been constant, causing Maria to have low self-esteem and no longer trust her own judgment. She can't sleep and has been feeling depressed. Thank you for coming. Sorry about the mess.
We're glad you reached out. Would you like to sit down?
Sure.
Do you mind if I sit here?
Please do.
Are you comfortable chatting with us right now?
Yeah, I guess so.
Please tell us everything you're able about what happened to you. I'm going to take some deep breaths before we get started. Feel free to join me. I know that it helps me concentrate on the conversation at hand. As we talk, feel free to get a glass of water or take a break at any point.
Okay. My husband has been hitting me for a long time. This morning, he was so angry. Maria shares that she has been abused mentally, emotionally, and physically for several years. The complex trauma she has experienced has caused her brain to be on constant alert, and she can be triggered easily in everyday situations. As she's sharing her story, Maria suddenly notices Officer Smith's watch. It is the same type of watch she bought her husband for a wedding present, and he has worn it every day since she gave it to him. The night she presented it was also the first time that he physically assaulted her. Seeing the watch on Officer Smith's hand triggers Maria, and she loses focus, stumbles over her words, and appears to withdraw.
Take as much time as you need.
I don't remember where I was at, but yeah, I think that's pretty much everything.
Okay. I would like to learn more about this morning. When you thought your nose was broken. Can you describe how that felt?
Okay, let's talk about what was going on in Maria's brain during this interaction. First, what is trauma?
Trauma is the reaction that our brain can have to something it perceives as a threat.
And everyone experiences it differently based on the person or the situation. In one instance, Maria might respond by getting small and quiet. In another situation, she might break into tears. Her best friend might become angry or combative, whereas her cousin might show avoidance, acquiescing to others.
We also need to remember that fear, or the feeling of being threatened, is subjective. We shouldn't judge anyone for what they're traumatized by, because no one can control what their brain perceives as a threat.
Yes, and notice the way Officer Thompson led the conversation. She led Maria through some deep breathing to help center her, asked open-ended questions, and generally allowed her to dictate how and at what pace her experience was shared. Maria decided which details to provide first, and only then did Officer Thompson ask more specific follow-up questions. When Maria was triggered, the officer held space for her to process that and didn't rush the conversation.
I get that she was emotionally overwhelmed, but wouldn't it have been simpler if the officer just asked her what had happened that day?
Good question, Jack. Let's talk about the brain and brain function by area, focusing on 2 primary areas of the brain: the prefrontal cortex, or rational brain, and the defense circuitry. We'll look at the way the brain usually functions using our hand to demonstrate. Imagine a closed fist with a thumb inside of the fingers. The thumb represents the defense circuitry, and the fingers represent the rational brain. Typically, when the rational brain is functioning regularly, it is in charge of how we interact with the world. It is responsible for logic, planning, and long-term memory, among other things. When the rational brain is in charge, we can recall events in a logical and chronological way. And just like the fingers and thumbs are touching, when there is no perceived threat, the rational brain and the defense circuitry are connected, working together. However, when our brain perceives a threat, the rational brain is impaired, and the defense circuitry, which is in charge of our fight, flight, and freeze responses, can take over. We can call this flipping our lid. The defense circuitry protects us in the immediate moment, but because our rational brain is impaired, we are not able to immediately process the traumatic events into our long-term memory. This means that often, victims of trauma cannot recall the events as we would expect them to because the memories are not stored in the logical, chronological way they typically would be. This also means that during a threat, the victim doesn't have access to their rational brain to make decisions, so their actions might appear irrational or confusing. Now, let's think about Maria's affect in the video. What stood out?
She got really upset when she saw the officer's watch.
Correct, Jack. The watch triggered Maria, which means her defense circuitry perceived a threat and took over. In this instance, as a reaction to that trauma, Maria attempted to make herself smaller and adopted a flat affect. Remember, there is no one way and certainly no right way to react to trauma. Every victim of domestic violence can respond differently and have different triggers.
Okay, but we're only on scene for a short amount of time, and there's so many other details we have to pay attention to in order to do our jobs effectively. I'm all for making the victim feel comfortable and supported, but there's only so much we can do.
It really helps if you can connect survivors of domestic violence to an advocate like me who is specially trained to help support them through their trauma. I see cases like Maria's every day. Through therapy and personalized support, we're able to help survivors see that they're not alone and empower them every step of the way to move towards safety and stability.
I couldn't have said it better myself. In fact, let's watch this second quick video to see what is possible when Maria gets the support that she needs. Hi, Officer Smith, Officer Thompson. I just wanted to stop by and thank you for the support you gave me. It's been a long road, but things are going well right now.
That's terrific, Maria.
That's such great news.
Your kindness and patience as you took my report helped me understand that it wasn't my fault. The fact that you believed me and cared made all the difference. Maria's husband was arrested and convicted of family violence after she reported this assault to the police. In the 2 years since, she has been able to seek services at her local domestic violence agency, where a counselor helps her process her trauma and understand her triggers. She has learned to trust and believe in herself again. To learn more about how you can support victims of abuse, visit these websites: www.instituteccr.org/roll-call, www.genesisshelter.org, www.conferencecaw.org.